Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the whole flock of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Gotta give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah. The Most High, the Heavenly Father, his Hebrew name is Yahweh. Not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah, not Abba. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten Son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shah. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua. It's Yahweh Shah. So got to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rekah, Kodash. Give honors to the apostles and the bishop and elders, great millstone, who rule well, who teach well, while the apostles and elders of all of Israel ready concepted or not. And a sincere salutation to all the Akim pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, sharing light to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Akwa who are listening learning, the few sisters who are listening learning. Coming at you another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification, another data edification, Lord will us be edifying. So I titled this lesson, The Fate of the Idumean Empire by the Lord. The fate of the Idumean Empire. So going back to this article that the brother Bayan Yasha had brought out last week. In this article, the guy mentioned this guy John Gloves, and he did like whatever, a book or a video. It was titled Faith of Empires, which I had found the video, so I'm gonna play some of it. Dealing with Esau's rulership from the Greeks to now, which he goes into. And I just want to make some points on this, because in this article right here, which is titled, "The U.S. is in throes of a total financial collapse, followed by the mark of the beast," watch as Jeffrey Prather explains. So it say, there is very little time that remains before the inevitable collapse of the current financial system, aka Ponzi scheme, commences, and the world as we currently know it comes to an end. What will it look like? Intelligence expert turned whistleblower Jeffrey Prather shared what he thinks is going to happen with the Health Ranger in a powerful episode of the Health Ranger Report that you would not want to miss. You can watch it in full below, which I got the video on here. Even those with minimal knowledge about the biblical end of days can see that things are amiss. The war in Ukraine rages on. Global supply chains are still in shambles from 2019 and getting worse all the time. And the financial markets are teetering on the brink of a free fall, which will eventually be followed by the mark of the beast and a new golden age, which will be the kingdom of heaven. That golden age, he say, in a new golden age to go along with it. No, ain't gonna be no mark of the beast in the new golden age. It's gonna be the kingdom of heaven. They say if you look at scripture, and I am a Christian chaplain, it becomes scarily true right now. Pratt explained about the current state of the world. It is all very inevitable. The flood is coming. And this time it's gonna be a flood of fire, and it is coming. He say, some speculated during 2019 that the World Health Organization Digital Health Certification Network might become the prophesied mark of the beast, whether you think the MOB will be. He said there is a flood coming. Are you prepared? They tell you that in Ezekiel 13. In Ezekiel 13, the Lord say, a shepherd are like foxes in the desert. They have not gone up into the gaps, neither made up the heads for Israel to stand in the day of battle. because the battle coming. Second Ezra 16, the Lord said, prepare thyself to thy battle, because it's Jacob's trouble. So it reads, one piece of scripture that is being fulfilled right this moment comes from 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. He mentions, it's a practical touch on this when he compared the self-sacrificial virtue of yesteryear to today's standard of every man for himself, and people ripping off people and people ripping other people off just to survive. He also cited Sir John Glubb's Faith of Empires, which I'm going to show you some of this, which stated that empires throughout history last only about 200 to 200, 250 to 275 years before they collapse, and the United States is now right there. Prater believes that he and anyone else who wishes to do so can successfully navigate the coming flood, as he calls it. No, you can't navigate the coming flood. It's the destruction of the Lord, as he calls it, by bolstering their physical, spiritual, and mental health and fortitude. But one thing is for sure, what is coming is not stoppable, which we know, which is the destruction of the Lord, man. That's that flood of fire. Whoever survives the horrific events to come will face a completely different world. And we know this. Tell you in 2 6 and 9, Esau is the end, and Jacob is the beginning, right? That cometh. So it say whoever survives the horrific events to come will face a completely different world. The one it say than the one most people are used to currently. Yeah, because the kingdom of heaven is coming, and it's gonna be the ruler of the heavenly Father, his only begotten son, Yahweh, King David, the 144,000, in that order. And they're going to rule the entire planet in righteousness. So again, he say, whoever survives the horrific events to come, and that's why I want to go through this again, because I tell you the only one that's going to survive on this side is the remnant. Was that Matthew 24 and 22? Let's read this. Matthew 24 and 13, Salakia. Because when you go to Jeremiah, let's get this first. When you go to Jeremiah 8 and 20, it reads, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved, right? In Matthew 24, it reads, Matthew 24 and 13, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So see right here, going back to this article, he say, whoever survives the horrific events to come, let me turn this volume back down. So lock you. It say, whoever survives the horrific events to come will face a completely different world than the one most people are used to. And that's going to be the kingdom of heaven. As the scriptures say, the Lord establishes his son's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. So it's going to be a totally different world, a righteous world. No more chemtrails, no more GMO foods, no more contaminated waters, no more rainbow sliders, no more adultery being committed, no more whoredoms, no more worshiping idols. Everything is going to be done in righteousness throughout the four corners of the earth. So again, whoever survives the horrific events to come will face a completely different world. And the only ones that are going to survive on this side is the remnant of Israel. Check that in Isaiah 20, Isaiah chapter 10, verse 20 and 21. Whoever survives the horrific events to come will face a completely different world than the one most people are used to currently. The United States, as we currently know it, will more than likely dissolve. And we know this because it tell you that 2 Peter 3. Everything is going to melt with fervent heat. Is it all when you read 2 Peter 3, 10 through 12? Everything shall melt with fervent heat, all the elements. Also, it's in Malachi 4 and 1. The day cometh when the earth shall burn as an oven. It say more than likely dissolve, both political and possibly even physically depending on the impact of the calamitous events foretold in Scripture. And these calamitous events that's coming, first off, it's going to be Jacob's trouble. There ain't going to be no food amongst the poor people, because at least they're going to have food in that time. It's going to be sedition. As the Scripture tell you, neighbor against neighbor. That's in Zechariah 14. That's in Isaiah 9. Neighbor against neighbor. Second Ezra. These are the calamitous events foretold. He said will dissolve both political and possibly even physical, depending on the impact of the calamitous events foretold in Scripture, which is going to be the missiles. The end goal is the missiles. But before that's going to be Jacob's trouble. When asked by the health ranger if he believes that the U.S. will still look relatively the same as it does now, come next fall, when 2024 election is scheduled to occur, this is what Prather had to say. I don't believe there is going to be any revenge tour. I don't think they are going to allow that to happen. Will the United States exist? The United States as a republic has already fallen. I think the better question is, will Americans still exist? And the only one that's going to make it is the remnant of Israel. That's all over the Bible. He that endure to the end, the same shall be saved. His answer to the latter question is yes, but Prather also believed that the U.S. is going to look very different than it does now. Of course it is. Because to tell you in Jeremiah and in Isaiah and Revelation 18 that America going to be destroyed, man. It's going to be made desolate. So he say, as the final days of the West unfold, you can also keep up with the latest news about what is going on at prophecy.com. Now, he mentioned the guy right here. He also cited Sir John Glubb's Faith of Empires, which states that empires throughout history last only about 250 to 275 years before they collapse. And the United States is now right there. So now let me show you this clip of this guy, John Glubbs. Shalom to the Akim while tuning in. Yeah, I want to show this. I want to go to that article though that the brother had put up by Young Yashala, which I did a lesson behind his lesson. And then when I mentioned that guy John Gloves, and I said I was gonna go and look into it. So I found it and I was holding this because I want to do a lesson on it. So I want to play some of this, Lord willing. Let me play some of this. So bear with me here for a moment. All right, so check this out. Hold on. Infomercial. Hold on. All right. So let me make sure this sharing. Because I'm gonna play some of this. Now listen to this guy. This ain't for low-level thinkers. This ain't for the faint-hearted. If you ain't into this, hey, you don't gotta watch. This is edifying. It was edifying to me, so it should be edifying to the body. So check this out.
The Fate of Empires by Sir John Glubb. John Baggot Glubb was born in 1897, his father being a regular officer in the Royal Engineers. At the age of 4, he left England for Mauritius, where his father was posted for a 3-year tour of duty. At the age of 10, he was sent to school for a year in Switzerland. These youthful travels may have opened his mind to the outside world at an early age. He entered the Royal Military Academy at Woolwich in September 1914 and was commissioned in the Royal Engineers in April 1915. He served throughout the First World War in France and Belgium, being wounded 3 times and awarded the Military Cross. In 1920, he volunteered for service in Iraq as a regular officer, but in 1926 resigned his commission and accepted an administrative post under the Iraq government. In 1930, however, he signed a contract to serve the Transjordan government, now Jordan. From 1939 to 1956, he commanded the famous Jordan Arab Legion, which was in reality the Jordan Army. Since his retirement, he has published 17 books, chiefly on the Middle East, and has lectured widely in Britain, the United States, and Europe. Introduction. As we pass through life, we learn by experience. We look back on our behavior when we were young and think how foolish we were. In the same way, our family, our community, and our town endeavor to avoid the mistakes made by our predecessors. The experiences of the human race have been recorded in more or less detail for some 4,000 years. If we attempt to study such a period of time in as many countries as possible, we seem to discover the same patterns constantly repeated under widely differing conditions of climate.
See, it's the same paths. You gotta read this. Same things over and over, man. And he breaking it down. He giving it to you plainly. But the Lord gave it to you in the scriptures first. Show you how the mind of Yahweh Shema Shai, man. It's Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. The thing that have been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It have been already of old time, which was before us. Ecclesiastes 3 and 14. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it. And God doeth it that men should fear before him. That which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been. And God require of that which is past. Listen to this guy, man.
Culture, and religion. Surely, we ask ourselves, if we studied calmly and impartially the history of human institutions and developments over these 4,000 years, should we not reach conclusions which would assist to solve our problems today? For everything that is occurring around us has happened again and again before.
See
No
that?
such conception ever appears to have entered into the minds of our historians. In general,
And that's why we keep saying the things which you see Glenn Beck, Peter Schiff, Ron Paul, Gerald Salente, Richard Wolf, Chris Hedges, uh, anybody that got a podcast that's talking about the world and the empires, these things these people be mentioning, but they don't understand that it was already in the Bible first, man. Romans 15 and 4, these things were written a 4 time ago for our learning, for Israel's learning, that we may have comfort. And this showing is proof that, man, the Lord is cold. If it had not been for the Lord, man, Psalms 124. This is the Lord showing you through the mind of these heathens. Look how I got things playing out, just as I had it written down for you.
historical teaching in schools is limited to this small island. We endlessly mull over the Tudors and the Stuarts, the Battle of Crecy, and Guy Fawkes. Perhaps this narrowness is due to our examination system, which necessitates the careful definition of a syllabus which all children must observe. I remember once visiting a school for mentally handicapped children. Our children do not have to take examinations, the headmaster told me, and so we are able to teach them things which will be really useful to them in life. However this may be, the thesis which I wish to propound is that priceless lessons could be learned if the history of the past 4,000 years could be thoroughly and impartially studied. In these 2 articles, which first appeared in Blackwood's magazine, I have attempted briefly to sketch some of the kinds of lessons which I believe we could learn. My plea is that history should be the history of the human race, not of one small country or period. The fate of empires. 1. Learning from history. The only thing we learn from history, it has been said, is that men never learn from history. A sweeping generalization, perhaps, but one which the chaos in the world today goes far to confirm. What then can be the reason why, in a society which claims to probe every problem, the bases of history are still so completely unknown? Several reasons for the futility of our historical studies may be suggested. First, our historical work is limited to short periods. The history of our own country, or that of some past age which, for some reason, we hold in respect. Second, even within these short periods, the slant we give to our narrative is governed by our own vanity rather than by objectivity. If we are considering the history of our own country, we write at length of the periods when our ancestors were prosperous and victorious, but we pass quickly over their shortcomings or their defeats. Our people are represented as patriotic heroes, their enemies as grasping imperialists or subversive rebels. In other words, our national histories are propaganda, not well balanced investigations. Third, in the sphere of world history, we study certain short, usually unconnected periods, which fashion at certain epochs has made popular. Greece, 500 years before Christ, and the Roman Republic and early Roman Empire are cases in point. The intervals between the great periods are neglected. Recently, Greece and Rome have become largely discredited, and history tends to become increasingly the parochial history of our own countries.
You see, let's go back because when was the what they say today? The so-called white man say today that civilization started with the Greeks, right? We all know this. Let's play this again.
Our people are represented as patriotic heroes, their enemies as grasping imperialists or subversive.
Our people are represented as what? One more time. Let's play this again.
Our people are represented as patriotic heroes, their enemies as grasping imperialists or subversive rebels. In other words, our national histories are propaganda, not well balanced investigations.
See, he said their history is propaganda, man. Listen to this guy, man.
Third, in the sphere of world history, we study certain short, usually unconnected periods, which fashion at certain epochs has made popular. Greece, 500 years before Christ, and the Roman Republic and early Roman Empire are cases in point. The intervals between the great periods are neglected. Recently, Greece and Rome have become largely discredited, and history tends to become increasingly the parochial history of our own countries.
And what's it saying? The Edomites say all roads lead back to Rome. All roads lead back to Greeks, man. To the Greece, to the Edomites. He's going to mention the Macedonian. He's going to mention the top hitters, man. Because this is about the empire of the Idumeans by the Lord.
To derive any useful instruction from history, it seems to me essential, first of all, to grasp the principle that history, to be meaningful, must be the history of the human race. For history is a continuous process, gradually developing, changing, and turning back, but in general moving forward in a single mighty stream. Any useful lessons to be derived must be learned by the study of the whole flow of human development, not by the selection of short periods here and there in one country or another. Every age and culture is derived from its predecessors, adds some contribution of its own, and passes it on to its successors. If we boycott various periods of history, the origins
Hold
of the
on.
new
Did you hear that? Hold on. I got to get these precepts. Hold on. Run it back.
single mighty stream. Any useful lessons to be derived must be learned by the study of the whole flow of human development, not by the selection of short periods here and there in one country or another. Every age and culture is derived from its predecessors, adds some contribution of its own, and passes it on to its successors.
See? And passive on to its successors. Well, what did the scripture say? This is Psalm 17 and 13. It reads, Arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, from men which are thy hand, O Yahweh, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, in whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasures. They are full of children and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. Right? Well, guess what? The downside to that is when they tell you in Job 21, they pass everything down, right? This is how they establish generational wealth, keep it in the family. This is Job 21 and 19. God layeth up his iniquity for his children. He rewardeth him, and he shall know it. His eyes shall see his destruction, and he shall drink of the wrath of the Almighty. For what pleasure have he in his house after him, those that come after, when the number of his months is cut off in the midst? This is called precepts, man, because everything is going to be passed down to his children, man. Which, when you come back, you are your forefather. This is Job 27 and 13. This is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors, which they shall receive from the Almighty. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring should not be satisfied with bread. See, those that remain of him shall be buried in death, and his widows shall not weep. So it's showing you, let's get one more, Ecclesiastes 4. They pass it down to their children, man. It say Job 4, Ecclesiastes 4 and 16. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Why? Because they had inherited lies. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit, which it tell you. Let me get this one in Jeremiah, which is talking about Israelites, but it applies to those that's in rulership now. This is Jeremiah 16 and 19. It reads, it say, O Yahweh, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction, the Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, which are Israelite foreigners, coming back from scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and shall say, surely our father have inherited lies, which is talking about Israelites, vanity and things wherein it is no profit. But this applies to the so-called white man now, because everything that they have passed to their kids is our vanity and vexation of spirit. This is Ecclesiastes 43. Let's read this one. Ecclesiastes 41, Salakia. It reads, Ecclesiastes 41 and 7. The children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be reproached for his sakes. See, let's go back to Job. Job 27 and 13, it reads, this is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors, which they shall receive of the Almighty. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword. See, so they got to meet the reproach. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring should not be satisfied with bread. Again, Ecclesiastes 41 and 7. And this show you how beautiful the Lord is through the minds of these Edomites, man. Sirach 41 and 7. The children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be reproached for his sake. See, what's the word reproach? Let's look at it. Let's look at this word reproach real quick. Reproach. It say disappointment, right? Similar words say rebuke, reprove, reproval, admonishment, admonishing. You got say roasting, or roasting. And what the scripture talking about? That the Lord gonna roast them, man. That's heavy. Roasting. That's basically it. You got roasting, rebuke, reprove. Let's get this word here. Scolding. An angry rebuke or reprimand. That's heavy. Let's get the word reprimand. It's right here too. A rebuke, especially an official one, A rebuke, especially an official one. Let's get this word. Yeah, that's basically it. It's a lot of words in here, but those are the main ones. Man, rebuke, reprove, scolding, man. It's a roasting, the action of cooking something in an oven or over an open fire. Ooh, let's go back. Yeah, man. So let's play what he said again, man. 537. Let me go back a few ticks.
Of short periods here and there in one country or another. Every age and culture is derived from its predecessors, adds some contribution of its own, and passes it on to its successors. If we boycott various periods of history, the origins of the new cultures which succeeded them cannot be explained. Physical science has expanded its knowledge by building on the work of its predecessors and by making millions of careful experiments, the results of which are meticulously recorded. Such methods have not yet been employed in the study of world history. Our piecemeal historical work is still mainly dominated by emotion and prejudice. 2. The lives of empires. If we desire to ascertain the laws which govern the rise and fall of empires, the obvious course is to investigate the imperial experiments recorded in history and to endeavor to deduce from them any lessons.
Hey, and Salakia, I'm doing this lesson on the backup channel because I don't need Esau clipping my main channel again. So that's why I'm over here. And whoever can't find it, they can't find it. Hey, it ain't meant. Whoever made it, hey, call out y'all Shema Shaka. This is fire for me. This is a fire lesson. Because I got another clip I'm going to play after this, which is like 14 minutes, Lord willing. Because it's going into some real deep down in the gutter hole, man. So hey, the water y'all Shema Shaka, call out y'all Shema Shaka.
Lessons which seem to be applicable to them all. The word empire, by association with the British Empire, is visualized by some people as an organization consisting of a home country in Europe and colonies in other continents. In this essay, the term empire is used to signify a great power, often called today a superpower. Most of the empires in history have been large land blocks, almost without overseas possessions. We possess a considerable amount of information on many empires recorded in history and of their vicissitudes and the lengths of their lives. For example, Assyria, 859 to 612 BC, 247 years. Persia, Cyrus and his descendants, 538 to 330 BC, 208 years. Greece, Alexander and his successors, 331 to 100 BC, 231 years. Roman Republic, 260 to 27 BC, 233 years. The Roman Empire, 27 BC to AD 180, 207 years. The Arab Empire, AD 634 to 880, 246 years. The Mamluk Empire, AD 1250 to 1517, 267 years. The Ottoman Empire, 1320 to 1570, 250 years. Spain, 1500 to 1750, 250 years. Romanov Russia, 1682 to 1916, 234 years. Britain, 1700 to 1915, 250 years. This list calls for certain comments.
You see that? And he ended off with Great Britain, right? 1719. And who came out of Great Britain? Babylon the Great America, man. See, and I got and what all that he just mentioned, I got it on my phone. If you go to Google and type in Israel's timeline, they'll give you everybody that went over there and lived in that land since we left there. That's what he just mentioned. He went through the whole timeline. I got it in my phone, man. It's called Israel's timeline. You go to Google. Great Britain, man, which is the seventh. America is the eighth, which came out of the seventh. See how he stopped at Great Britain in the 1900s, man. And we still in the hands of the Edomites, the Roman Empire, man. Listen,
1. The present writer is exploring the facts, not trying to prove anything. The dates given are largely arbitrary. Empires do not usually begin or end on a certain date. There is normally a gradual period of expansion and then a period of decline. The
Hmm.
resemblance and the duration of these great powers may be queried. Human affairs are subject to many chances, and it is not to be expected that they could be calculated with mathematical accuracy. 2. Nevertheless, it is suggested that there is sufficient resemblance between the life periods of these different empires to justify further study. 3. The division of Rome into two periods may be thought unwarranted. The first, or Republican period, dates from the time when Rome became the mistress of Italy and ends with the accession of Augustus. The imperial period extends from the accession of Augustus to the death of Marcus Aurelius. It is true that the empire
See, he mentioned it Jake when Jake took over, man. See,
survived nominally for more than a century after this date, but it did so in constant confusion, rebellions, civil wars, and barbarian invasions. 4. Not all empires endured for their full
Jerry, he said barbarian invasions, which they consider Hannibal to be a barbarian, man. Hannibal with the Punic Wars, man.
lifespan. The Babylonian Empire of Nebuchadnezzar, for example, was overthrown by Cyrus after a life duration of only some 74 years. 5. An interesting deduction from the figures seems to be that the duration of empires does not depend on the speed of travel or the nature of weapons. The Assyrians marched on foot and fought with spears and bows and arrows. The British used artillery, railways, and ocean going ships. Yet the two empires lasted for approximately the same periods. There is a tendency nowadays to say that this is the jet age, and consequently, there is nothing for us to learn from past empires. Such an attitude seems to be erroneous. 6. It is tempting to compare the lives of empires with those of human beings. We may choose a figure and say the average life of a human being is 70 years. Not all human beings live exactly 70 years. Some die in infancy, others are killed in accidents in middle life, some survive to the age of 80 or 90. Nevertheless, in spite of such exceptions, we are justified in saying that 70 years is a fair estimate of the average person's expectation of life.
Where did he get that from? The scriptures, man. And I want to say this too, because he ran through the whole history. He mentioned how the Babylonians, then the Medo and Persian Empire came and took down the Babylonians. They got all this documented, man. They got it documented. Then he mentioned the Britain Empire with the trains and ships, which is the Industrial Revolution, giving you a list of history, man. They got everything documented, man. But the Edomites done away with though. How would they know this? At least they've been keeping records because they came from Esau, Edom, man. The Greeks, the Romans, the American Empire, which is the so-called white man's empires.
7. We may perhaps at this stage be allowed to draw certain conclusions. A. In spite of the accidents of fortune and the apparent circumstances of the human race at different epochs, the periods of duration of different empires at varied epochs show a remarkable similarity. B. Immense changes in the technology of transport or in the methods of warfare do not seem to affect the life expectation of an empire. C. The changes in the technology of transport and of war have, however, affected the shape of empires. The Assyrians, marching on foot, could only conquer their neighbors, who were accessible by land: the Medes, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Egyptians. The British, making use of ocean going ships, conquered many countries and subcontinents which were accessible to them by water: North America, India, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. But they never succeeded in conquering their neighbors, France, Germany, and Spain. But, although the shapes of the Assyrian and the British empires were entirely different, both lasted about the same length of time.
Hold on, hold on, because he mentioned when you read in Daniel 7, let's go back a few ticks. In Daniel 7, he mentioned, let me play it again.
Saying that 70 years is a fair estimate of the average person's expectation of life. 7. We may perhaps at this stage be allowed to draw certain conclusions. A. In spite of the accidents of fortune and the apparent circumstances of the human race at different epochs, the periods of duration of different empires at varied epochs show a remarkable similarity. B. Immense changes in the technology of transport or in the methods of warfare do not seem to affect the life expectation of an empire. C.
And that's because the different industrial revolutions. So now we now so you had the first, second, and third industrial revolution. Now we at the fourth, and they all was different. Everything was different, fought different. Everything was different in each one of these industrial revolutions. Listen,
The changes in the technology of transport and of war have, however, affected the shape of empires.
that's through the four industrial revolutions.
The Assyrians, marching on foot, could only conquer their neighbors, who were accessible by land. The
See, he mentioned the Assyrians, which when you read in Babylon in Daniel 7, when it tell you that Babylon, the head, it said was the leopard that had wings until the wings was plucked off. The wings being plucked off was the Assyrians, which was Nebuchadnezzar. He was a Syrian. His father was a Syrian. So look how he going into detail dealing with Daniel 7. Listen,
Medes, the Babylonians, the Persians,
Salakia, hold on.
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything online. Don't spend another
Salakia.
you watch this.
3. The human yardstick. What
Hold on, I
then,
gotta go
we may
back.
ask, can have been the factor which caused such, or in the methods of warfare, do not seem to affect the life expectation of an empire? C. The changes in the technology of transport and of war have, however, affected the shape of empires. The Assyrians, marching on foot, could only conquer their neighbors, who were accessible by land: the Medes, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Egyptians.
Now you see that? That's Daniel. When you read Daniel 7, when they talk about the bear that had three ribs in his mouth, which was the Medo Persian Empire, which conquered Babylon, Egypt, and Lydia. See, he just ain't mentioned Lydia. But listen,
The British, making use of ocean-going ships, conquered many countries and subcontinents which were accessible to them by water: North America, India, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, but they never succeeded in conquering their neighbors, France, Germany, and Spain. But, although the shapes of the Assyrian and the British empires were entirely different, both lasted about the same length of time. 3.
so now he mentioning he done went from Assyrian to Babylon to the Medo and Persians. Now he jumped to Britain because he talking about he said, but they was able to conquer North America and other places, but not France. Now we had the Edomite Empire. This is where he going at. Edomites on Edomites, man. That's why it's going to take the Lord got to set up what Edomites going to take down Edomites. That Revelation 13, the head was the head of a leopard, but the feet was the feet of a bear. Now he had the point of it's all about the Edomites. Listen,
The human yardstick. What, then, we may ask, can have been the factor which caused such an extraordinary similarity in the duration of empires under such diverse conditions and such utterly different technological achievements? One of the very few units of measurement which have not seriously changed since the Assyrians is the human generation, a period of about 25 years. Thus, a period of 250 years would represent about 10 generations of people. A closer examination of the characteristics of the rise and fall of great nations may emphasize the possible significance of the sequence of generations. Let us then attempt to examine the stages in the lives of such powerful nations. 4. Stage 1. The outburst. Again and again in history we find a small nation, treated as insignificant by its contemporaries, suddenly emerging from its homeland and overrunning large areas of the world. Prior to Philip, 359 to 336 BC, Macedon had been an insignificant state to the north of Greece. Persia was the great power of the time, completely dominating the area from Eastern Europe to India. Yet, by 323 BC, 36 years after the accession of Philip, the Persian Empire had ceased to exist, and the Macedonian Empire extended from the Danube to India, including Egypt. This amazing expansion may perhaps be attributed to the genius of Alexander the Great, but this cannot have been the sole reason, for although after his death everything went wrong, the Macedonian generals fought one another and established rival empires.
see that? Call out Yahweh Shema Rashai. Now he mentioned how Alexander took down Persia, right? Real quick. This is beautiful, man. Let me read this, and then we're gonna continue. This might be a long one too. This is Daniel's. Real quick, I just want to hit this point. But you already said after Alexander died, everything went terribly wrong because his generals were fighting amongst themselves. So that's Daniel 8. Just read this. Daniel 81, the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in the vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in the vision, and I was by the river Ulal. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. The last be Persia, because first was the Medes, then Persians. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. This is the Medo-Persian Empire. And I was considering, behold, and he goat came forth, from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a noble horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. This was Alexander the Great, and when he died. And for it came up four noble ones towards the four winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn which waxed exceedingly great. This would be Antiochus Epiphanes. Toward the south, and towards the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. Now, here it is. This is what you can read about when they took the Apocrypha away, right? The Bible Destruction Group. When they removed the Apocrypha out of the Bible, guess what, you slow belly Edomites? It's in Daniel's, man. Daniel's 2 mentions when Daniel's told the king, thou their head of gold, right? He said, after thee shall another kingdom inferior to thee, which was the Medes and Persians. He said, after them, a kingdom of brass, which was the Greeks. It's in Daniel 7, Daniel 2, and Daniel 8, Alexander the Greek. So though you took the Apocrypha away, it's written in the scriptures. Now, when you go to First Maccabees 1, it reads, he mentioned, you heard this Edomite mention Philip, which was Alexander's father. First Maccabees 1 and 1. See, the Lord just got these Edomites just further confirming what the scriptures say. The Lord got the Edomites confirming what he has already written, what he has already said, man. We don't need the so-called white man's validation. The Lord gave us the scriptures for that, man, the Holy Spirit. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim and had smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, because he slayed everybody. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and rulers over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. After these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare ruled everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put on crowns. They all put crowns upon themselves so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Now let's play what he just said. That's 13, 15. Let's go back a few ticks.
36 years after the accession of Philip, the Persian Empire had ceased to exist, and the Macedonian Empire extended from the Danube to India, including Egypt. This amazing expansion may perhaps be attributed to the genius of Alexander the Great, but this cannot have been the sole reason, for although after his death everything went wrong, the Macedonian generals fought one another and established rival empires.
See, after he died, many evils were multiplied in the earth, as I just read. And also, it's in Proverbs. Let me get this one. I'm going to let it ride. Proverbs 29 and 16, it reads, when the wicked are multiplied, transgressions increase, but the righteous shall see their fall. And we watching their kingdom, their last empire fall.
Macedonian preeminence survived for 231 years. In the year AD 600, the world was divided between two superpower groups, as it has been for the past 50 years between Soviet Russia and the West.
You heard him? The two most important powers is, he says, Saudi Arabia, Salaki. He had the Soviet Union and the West. Let's play that one more time. Where we at right now? In these two powers.
In preeminence survived for 231 years. In the year AD 600, the world was divided between two superpower groups, as it has been for the past 50 years between Soviet Russia and the West.
That's where we at now. The point is, the Lord is showing us that he's using Edomites to take down Edomites. He's not going to use Arab to take down Edomites. He's not going to use Hamites to take down Edomites. He ain't going to use Elamites to take down Edomites. He's using Edomites to take down Edomites, man. Because this is the so-called white man's power. Job 9 and 24, man. This is beautiful.
The two powers were the Eastern Roman Empire and the Persian Empire. The Arabs were then the despised and backward inhabitants.
You heard what he said? The two powers was the Eastern Roman Empire. That was ruled by Jake, because we took down the Western Roman Empire, which was the Edomites. You see how cold this is? So he mentioned the Byzantine Empire.
Of the Arabian Peninsula. They consisted chiefly of wandering tribes and had no government, no constitution, and no army. Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and North Africa were Roman provinces. Iraq was a part of Persia. The Prophet Muhammad preached in Arabia from AD 613 to 632 when he died. In 633, the Arabs burst out of their desert peninsula and simultaneously attacked the two superpowers. Within 20 years, the Persian Empire had ceased to exist. 70 years after the death of the Prophet, the Arabs had established an empire extending from the Atlantic to the plains of northern India and the frontiers of China. At the beginning of the 13th century, the Mongols were a group of savage tribes in the steppes of Mongolia. In 1211, Genghis Khan invaded China. By 1258,
and that's a fire movie too, on Netflix, about Genghis Khan. I forgot the name of it. The Mongolian Empire. That's a good show, man. A fire show. I forgot the name of it right off.
Mongols had established an empire extending from Asia Minor to the China Sea, one of the largest empires the world has ever known. The Arabs ruled the greater part of Spain for 780 years, from 712 AD to 1492. 780 years back in British history would take us to 1196 and King Richard Coeur de Lion. During these 8 centuries, there has been no Spanish nation, the petty kings of Aragon and Castile alone holding on in the mountains. The agreement between Ferdinand and Isabella and Christopher Columbus was signed immediately after the fall of Granada, the last Arab kingdom in Spain, in 1492. Within 50 years, Cortes had conquered Mexico, and Spain was the world's greatest empire. Examples of the sudden outburst by which empires are born could be multiplied indefinitely. These random illustrations must suffice. 5. Characteristics of the outburst. These sudden outbursts are usually characterized by an extraordinary display of energy and courage.
Now that's all I'm gonna play on that. You heard last thing he said was King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella and Cristobal Colon in the 1492. So it all leaded to what? To the Edomites taking over, right? Watch this. Now, let me drop that. Let's get this. See? You see how it all add up, man? And it was already in the scriptures before the Lord showed us through the unicorn and World Wide Web, Esau, writing everything down. Now check this out. Remember, it ended off with him saying Queen Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Right? Check this out.
On November 2nd, 1917, Britain's Foreign Secretary, Arthur Balfour, wrote a letter that would set off a conflict still being fought more than 100 years later.
His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object.
When Balfour wrote of his government's intent to create a Jewish homeland in Palestine, 90% of the people living there were not Jewish. Just 31 years later, most of them were gone.
כמה אתה חושב אנשים הרגת ככה?
לא ספרתי. אני לא יכול לדעת בחיי. היה לי מקלע עם 250 כדורים.
This is the story of the British Promenade of Israel. Let's start with the obvious question. Why were the British making promises about other people's countries? The short answer, empire is one hell of a drug. This was World War I.
See, it's all about empire.
And the British were making lots of promises. In addition, if they rose up against Britain's enemy, the Ottoman Empire. The Arabs did. Hollywood even made a movie about it.
Arabia's for the Arabs now. That's what I've told them anyway. That's what they think. That's why they're fighting.
Oh, surely.
A month after Balfour's letter, British troops took Palestine, ending 400 years of Ottoman rule. The people who lived there were Arabs, mostly Muslims, but there were Christian and Jewish minorities too. There was also a tiny number of European Jews who in the late 1800s had started building small colonies there. At a time when many Jews were suffering horrific persecution in Europe, they felt Palestine could be an escape. The idea of building up a Jewish presence in Palestine became known as Zionism, but it stayed a fringe movement among European Jews. Many of them felt they shouldn't have to leave their countries to avoid persecution. But Zionism as a political movement took a big step forward with an Austrian man called Theodor Herzl. And this guy is a very important name in this story. In 1896, he published Der Judenstaat, or in English, The Jewish State. In it, he said the only way for Jews to avoid Europe's anti-Semitism was not just to leave, but to have their own country. And Herzl didn't just write. The next year, he organized a conference in Basel, Switzerland, the first Zionist Congress. The attendees agreed on a program which sought, among other things, to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine and promote Jewish settlement in Palestine. From here on out, the Zionist movement became very active, setting up funds to promote Jewish immigration to Palestine, companies to buy land there, and recruiting representatives to advocate for their cause with different governments. A few days after the conference, Herzl wrote this in his diary.
At Basel, I founded the Jewish state. In 5 years, perhaps, and certainly in 50 years, everyone will perceive it.
He was only off by 1 year. Okay, so that is a lot of history, but it's important because the Zionist movement is a critical part of the story going forward, especially after it found a friend in the British government, where a lot of high-ranking officials supported Zionism, sometimes for unexpected reasons. Prime Minister Lloyd George, for example, example, was a Christian zealot who believed gathering the Jewish people in Palestine would bring Jesus Christ back to earth. Others, like Balfour, believed that getting the Jewish people out of Europe and into their own country would be a good thing. Herzl was pretty visionary when he wrote that the anti-Semitic nations will become our allies.
You heard what he said? By getting them out of Europe into their own land. What's Europe? A bottomless pit. As they tell you in Revelations 20. That bottomless pit is talking about Europe. Points I want to take out of this. Let's run that back. So what was that about? Go back here.
Was a Christian zealot who believed gathering the Jewish people in Palestine would bring Jesus Christ back to earth. Others, like Balfour, believed that getting the Jewish people out of Europe and into their own country would be a good thing.
See? Revelation. Revelation, chapter 20, and verse 7. It reads, matter of fact, let's read up. This is Revelation 20 and 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should not deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So that bottomless pit is talking about Europe, man. And then he was loosed, but the bottomless pit is talking about Europe. So why would he say this? Because the Lord already had it written. Let's play it again.
Europe and into their own country would be a good thing.
Hold on.
Getting the Jewish people out of Europe and into their own country would be a good thing.
Can't make this up. They only saying what was already written to the Israelites a short time ago. Prophecies are being fulfilled, man. Let me get this. In Job 15 and 5. For thy mouth uttereth thy iniquity, and thou choosest the tongue of the crafty. Thy own mouth condemneth thee, and not I. Yeah, thy own lips testify against thee. Beautiful, man.
Herzl was pretty visionary when he wrote that the anti-Semitic nations will become our allies. Meanwhile, the Zionists assured Britain that their future country would be a reliable ally. So that's the backstory of how European anti-Semitism, Zionism, and British imperialism all led to the Balfour Declaration, this British promise to build a homeland for Jews in Palestine. Now we're going to look at how Britain did that. World War I had been a conflict between rival empires, and the winners set up the League of Nations to distribute the losing side's territories between them. They called it the Mandate System, putting territories once controlled by the Ottoman and German empires under the, quote, tutelage of advanced nations until they became independent. Britain was given the mandate over Palestine, but the Palestinian people were never asked what they wanted or what independence would look like to them.
Why would Esau ask that when he was given the fatness of the earth, man? Now we talking about Ishmael's first son, Salakia, Abraham's first son, Ishmael, fighting against his nephew, which is Esau, man. Because Ishmael and Isaac were brothers, right? Ishmael being Abraham's first son, Isaac being Abraham's second son. Esau and Jacob came out of Isaac. So Ishmael will be our uncle. So here it is, over in the land of Israel right now, you got Ishmaelites fighting against the Edomites, the uncle against the nephews, the uncle against his nephews and nieces. The Lord said in Amos 7:17 that our land should be divided by line, man. Can't make this up.
Listen to what Balfour wrote to one of his colleagues.
For in Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting the wishes of the present inhabitants of the country.
Instead, it was the Zionists who were consulted about what their vision for Palestine was. And
See, they just went over there and took it, man, and pushed them and pushed the Palestinians, okay, to a portion. Just like Esau came to America and pushed Gad and Reuben and Issachar to a portion. This is the power the Lord gave to the so-called white men to do in the earth, man. Job 9 and 24s.
And so the mandate ended up incorporating not just the Balfour Declaration, but several clauses requiring Britain to ensure the establishment of a Jewish home in Palestine. British rule was very accommodating to the Zionist project. The Jewish community in Palestine grew with big waves of immigration. They had their own schools and factories and even their own militia, the Haganah, and they were led by the Polish-born David Ben-Gurion, the leader of their representative body, the Jewish Agency. To the Palestinians, it was clear that Britain wasn't delivering them independence, delivering their country to other people. In 1936, they went on strike. British forces tried to break the strike with arrests, torture, mass punishment, and executions. Leaders were exiled, weapons confiscated, and houses blown up. Palestinian fighters attacked British and Jewish targets, while British and Haganah forces would carry out joint raids on Palestinian villages. Something had to change. The British government...
See what's going on right now. Same thing, man. Same thing.
Government sent a commission called the Peel Commission to figure it out, but their proposed solution was typical. Just draw another British line on the map, divide the country, give this part to the Jews and this part to the Palestinians, and make that part of Transjordan next door. Oh,
See, I told you. You see, you can't make this up. Amos, man, call out Yahweh Shema Shai, man. Amos 7:17. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, thy wife shall be an harlot in the city, and thy sons and thy daughters shall fall by the sword, and thy land shall be divided by a line, and thou shalt die in a polluted land, which is America, and Israel shall surely go into captivity of this land, far forth of this land. Israel will be you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. We went into captivity. See, our land should be divided by line. Can't make this up.
and because the Palestinians were a majority in the country, 250,000 of them would have to be removed by force to make the Jewish state viable. Remember, these were the proposals that were meant to calm things down. Spoiler, they didn't. Instead, the revolt continued until 1939, by which time about 10% of Palestine's adult male population had either been killed, injured, arrested, or exiled. The British government really needed a solution. So here comes another report.
The commission is studying the 20-year-old Jewish settlements in British-mandated Palestine.
The 1939 White Paper created a conflict between the British and the Zionists for the first time, because it rejected partition and said the solution was for Palestine to gain independence within 10 years, with everyone living there sharing it together. Crucially, it also imposed severe limits on Jewish land purchases and immigration. To the Zionists, this felt like a betrayal. In response, some set off bombs across the country, killing dozens of Palestinians. But soon, everyone was distracted by something much bigger. More than 60 million people were killed in World War II, including 6 million Jews murdered in Nazi death camps. Jewish survivors fled Europe, with a large number of them trying to find safety in Palestine despite the British limit on Jewish immigration. This set off a more direct confrontation between the Zionists and the British, with Palestinians often targeted as well. The Zionists knew two things. Militarily, they were stronger than the Palestinians, and Britain was exhausted by World War II, so it wouldn't have the stomach to keep fighting in Palestine. They were right. In 1947, after 30 years of occupation, Britain announced it was quitting Palestine and asked the newly formed United Nations to clean up its mess. All right, 1947 and 1948 are the most pivotal years in this story. So let's take a look at how things are lining up. During British rule, Jews had gone from 10% to 30% of the population and owned about 6% of the land. Under Ben-Gurion's leadership, the Jewish Agency was pretty much functioning as a government for the Jewish community. And the Zionist militias had tens of thousands of soldiers, modern weapons, and officers who'd already fought in World War II. On the other side, the Palestinians hadn't been allowed to develop their own administration or military. But as they waited for the UN solution, they were still the majority all over the country. In November 1947, the UN, then only made up of a fraction of the world's countries, voted to partition Palestine. This plan marked off 55% of the country for a Jewish state, but the UN never explained how it could be a Jewish state when half the people in its territory were Palestinian. To nobody's surprise, Palestinians, and in fact all Arabs, rejected the UN's plan. Ben-Gurion and the Zionist leadership accepted, but they saw an opportunity. With the British on the way out, the Zionists knew they would have the strongest military in Palestine. Their forces were instructed to seize more territory than they'd been awarded by the UN, and to do what was necessary to reduce the number of Palestinians in it. In cities like Haifa, the militia set off car bombs in Palestinian neighborhoods. They attacked villages and forced residents out.
Haganah troops have driven the Arabs out of the beleaguered city, taking many prisoners.
After inspecting parts of western Jerusalem that had been emptied of Palestinians, Ben-Gurion said,
"In many Arab neighborhoods in the West, you do not see even one Arab. If we persist, it is quite possible that in the next 6 or 8 months, there will be considerable changes in the country, and to our advantage."
One of the events that helped speed up these changes took place on April 9th, 1948, when the village of Deir Yassin was attacked. A British government report to the United Nations describes the scene. 250 people were killed in circumstances of great savagery. Women and children were stripped, lined up, photographed, and then slaughtered by automatic firing. The story of what happened at Deir Yassin set off panic all over the country. As news spread, people fled, fearing they would be next. Historians have recorded dozens of similar massacres during this period. Each time, they would result in entire communities fleeing.
תמיד הייתה הוראה של בן-גוריון לגרש את האנשים משם. כבשנו את המקום, טרקטורים חרשו את המקום. חרשו. לא נשאר זכר של כבר. למה? לא רצו שתהיה, לא חזרה ולא זכר של המקום.
By the time Britain ended its mandate on May 15th, 1948, 250,000 Palestinians had fled. The night before, David Ben-Gurion announced the founding of the State of Israel, with himself as its first prime minister. He was standing under a giant portrait of Herzl, 51 years after Herzl had predicted this very moment. The Zionist militias came together as the newly formed Israel Defense Forces, but the fighting wasn't over. With the British out of the way, soldiers from several Arab countries entered Palestine. But the Israeli army was better equipped, better organized, and unlike the Arab armies, had a unified command and backing from several European countries. Israeli forces pushed into places that the UN had assigned to the Palestinian state, like the towns of Lidda and Ramle. 50,000 people were forced to flee from there, many on foot, in what became known as the Lidda Death March. After being emptied, the towns were given Hebrew names, Lod and Ramla. Like in many other emptied towns, the buildings and homes were taken over by the new Israeli state and given to Jews. By the time the UN secured an armistice, 3/4 of the Palestinian people had become refugees. In Arabic, they call this the Nakba, literally the catastrophe. The new state of Israel made up 78% of what had been Palestine. The remaining parts were annexed by Jordan or taken over by Egypt. A year later, the UN passed a resolution calling for all Palestinian refugees to be allowed to return home. They never have been. Palestine had been erased. In the decades since, attempts to resolve this conflict have again tried to partition the land. With each successive attempt, the territory offered to Palestinians in their historic homeland shrinks even more. Ironically, Israel is still struggling to maintain the population advantage it gained in 1948 when it forced all those people out, because in 1967, it occupied the West Bank and Gaza, bringing all the Palestinians living there under its rule. And so today, the population of Jews and non-Jews in this land is roughly equal. But those living under occupation have no rights, no citizenship, and no prospect of independence. The Nakba era tactics of settlement, home demolitions, and expulsion are still used against them.
Nakba, Nakba, no! We want Nakba, Nakba, no!
Israel has taken the land but wants nothing to do with the millions under its rule. International, Israeli, and Palestinian human rights groups say this system is a form of apartheid. To see if that's an accurate description of Israel more than 100 years after Balfour's promise, watch this video here.
So, you see that? Now, I just got one precept. You know, I'm finna read Job 24. Yup. Let's read this. Get a cuff from this brother. And Shalom to Dr. Nawal tuning in. Yeah, but you know, Shabbat. Because I bring your holder. Isaiah 49, Psalms 49:11. Their inward thoughts is that their house shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Yep. Also, because this is what he have done with the Palestinians. Psalms 55:21. The words of his mouth are sweeter than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Yep. Now, let me get this. I'm going to close with this. This is Job 24, because this explains these Edomites to the T, man. From the Greeks to now, man. These is some, what's the word, atrocious? Well, these are some wicked bastards, boy. Job 24:1. I'm going to read all of this. Listen to this. It reads, why sin times are not hidden from the Almighty? Do they not know him? Do they not, it says Salakia, do they that know him not see his days? Some remove the landmarks. They violently take away flocks and feed thereof. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hid themselves together. Behold, as wild asses in the desert, go they forth for their work, rising bee times for a prey. The wilderness yield food for them and for their children. They reap everyone his corn in the field, and they gather the vintage of the wicked. They cause the naked to lodge without clothing, that they have no covering in the cold. They are wet with the showers of the mountains, and embrace the rock for want of a shelter. The Edomites, they pluck the fatherless from the breast, and they take pledge of the poor. They cause him to go naked without clothing, and they take away the sheaf from the hungry, which make oil within their walls, and tread their wine presses, and suffer thirst. Men groan from out of the city, and the soul of the wounded crieth out, yet God layeth not folly to them. Why? As Psalm 73:5, they are not in trouble as other men. Talking about the elites. They are of those that rebelled against the light. They rebelled against the Israelites. They know not the ways thereof, nor abide in the paths thereof. That's that Isaiah 26:10. Let favor be showed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly. The murderer riseth with the light. That's that Micah 2:1. It said the murderer rises with the light, killeth the poor and needy, and in the night is as a thief. This is definitely talking about the so-called white man right here. Verse 15, the eyes also of the adulterer waited for the twilight, saying, no eye shall see me in the skies of his face. What they been doing up there in Chicago? Put on black faces. That's one of these That's one of the examples of this verse. In the skies of his face, right? Psalms 10 and 10, he crouched and humbled himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. Another way of him disguising his face, he used your people to come against you, Jake. And the apostles have been saying that for years. He's going to set up your leaders to get you to make you drink the Capri Sun, to make you take the MOTB. In the dark that digged, so like it say, Job 24 and 15, the eye also of the adulterer waited for the twilight, saying, no eye shall see me. When the angels see everything, man. In the skies of his face, in the dark, they dig through houses which they had marked for themselves in the daytime. See, this is what they did. They know not the light, for the morning is to them even at the shadow of death, man. It say, if one know them, they are in the terrors of the shadow of death. This is the rulership of the so-called white man. Everything about him is the terrors of the shadow of death. He is swift as the waters. Their portion is cursed in the earth. He beholdeth not the way of the vineyards. See, the portion of the so-called white man is cursed in the earth. And the Lord said it. Let's get it. The Lord said in Genesis, man. This is why the best that the Edomites can do is be wicked, man. That's their portion. The Lord made them to be the perfect adversaries. Genesis 3 and 14, and Yahweh power said unto the serpent, because the serpent, which is a sea line of people, it's a nation of people, ain't no snake, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle. The word cursed, the buzzword, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shall thou go, and dust, which is confusion, should I eat all the days of thy life. Let's go back. It said what? Job 24 and 18. He is swift as the waters. Their portion is cursed in the earth. And we keep telling you, this talking about the so-called white man. Proverbs. This is Proverbs 3 and 33. The Lord said it in Genesis. This is a future prophecy. This is a prophecy, Slakia, not future. This is a continual, perpetual prophecy about the Edomites. They was going to be the cursed people of the Lord, man. Proverbs 3 and 33. The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked. See? But he blesseth the habitation of the just. Isaiah 34 and 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumean. Who, Lord? Is it talking about animals or beasts? And upon the people. And upon the people, buzzword, people of my curse, buzzword, curse to judgment. So in Genesis 3 and 14, it ain't talking about no serpent, man. It's talking about a nation of people who's cursed, man. Okay, they are cursed. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. This heaven talking about the rulership. When you look this up, it mentioned the skies where the clouds dwell at. The war is going to be in heaven when Yahweh shall return. It tell you in Revelation 19. There's going to be a war against the so-called white man and his stealth bombers and his fighter jets and the Messiah and his angels and the chariots, man, what the world calls spaceships. So there's going to be a war against so-called spaceships and the so-called white man's fighter jets, the stealth bombers, the TR-3Bs, the F-35s. There's going to be a war. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, which is the way to say the Edomites, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. This is Genesis 3 and 14. These are the cursed people of the Lord, man. The so-called white man. The nation of the so-called white people, the Edomites, is their biblical term. They are cursed of the Lord, man. And the Lord told us in Genesis 3 and 14. Let's go back to that. Because when you read verse 15, it tells you that the spiritual demon Satan, this nation of people, have seed on the earth, man. Genesis 3 and 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. So hold on. The serpent got a seed? Let's read it all together. Genesis 3 and 14. And Yahweh and the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, what did he do? He supplanted me. What she said, he beguiled me. He tricked me with lies, enchantments. Gave her them smooth words, man. It said, and the Lord said unto the serpent, and the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shall thou go, and dust shall thou eat all the days of thy life. On your belly mean you the basis of people. You the lowest people on the planet. And dust shall thou eat, which is confusion, because snakes don't eat dust. This word dust is talking about confusion. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. Right here, the Lord said, I'm going to put enmity between thee and the woman. Eve don't got seed. So when it say, and between thy seed and her seed, so who is the her seed? Because the woman don't got no seed. A woman is an incubator for the baby. The seed come from a man. So what is the Lord saying right here about the serpent? And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. They bruise not heel, which is our Achilles' attendant. But the Messiah is going to destroy, going to wound their head permanently. They wounded us by having us in captivity, by controlling us. We got to go to them for the one of all things, which is the curse in Deuteronomy 28 and 48. But the point is, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed. So the serpent got a seed in her seed. Let's get this word seed, just to show you, for you out there that don't know what seed means. Let me show it to you. The serpent got a seed too. And it's a nation of people. It ain't no snake.
Strong's H2233. Zerah. Zerah.
See it? Seed, offspring, semen, virile, offspring, descendants, posterity, children. Okay? Strong definition say fruit, plant, child. Okay? That's what it means, man. So Satan got the physical seed on earth too, man. And that woman, when it said, I'm put enmity between thee and the woman, this woman is talking about the nation of Israel, man. Yeah. Now let's go back to Job. See, they curse, man. Job 24 and 18. He is swift as the waters. Their portion is cursed in the earth. He beholdeth not the way of the vineyards. The vineyards are the Israelites. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So doeth the grave those which have sinned, which is these heathens, but 2/3 of Israel. The womb shall forget him. See, the womb shall forget him, man. And when you read in Psalms 58 and 3, it said they came out of the womb. Let's get that. Because we talking about the power of the whole earth, Esau, Edom. Oh, and to show you, I want to get this too, before I forget. And to show you when it said, the Lord put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, that goes back to Genesis, man. It goes to Genesis. Right? In Genesis 25, the Lord told Rebekah, let's read it. Genesis 25 and 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, Esau and Jacob. And she said, if it be so, if it's a beautiful thing to have kids, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So here it is right here in Genesis 25 and 23, explaining Genesis 3 and 15 to you, that he's going to put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. Here is the breakdown to Genesis 3 and 15 right here. 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. How are they 2 manners of people if they in the same womb? See? Now, let's go back. Job 24 and 19. It's a Job 24 and 20. The womb shall forget him, the worm shall feed sweetly on him. He shall be no more remembered. The Edomites, the so-called white people, and wickedness shall be broken as a tree. He evil entreateth the barren that beareth not. He did Israel wrong. And now they're doing all nations wrong, man. The so-called white man is doing all nations wrong, man. It say, he draweth also the mighty with his power. What's the white man's power? The sword. He riseth up, and no man is sure of life. See what Alexander the Greek did. It said he conquered all the known world, man. It said the earth was quiet before him because he conquered all people, man. He destroyed everybody, all the kings, man. He draweth also the mighty with his power, which is the sword, his military. The so-called white man has the #1 military around the world, man. He rises up, and no man is sure of life. That's why I tell you. It said no man is sure of life. That's why I tell you in Proverbs 18 and 3, when the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. It said, though it be given him to be in safety, the so-called white man, the elites, whereon he resteth, yet his eyes are upon their ways. The Lord watching all of this. Look, Job 24 and 24, they are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. And the guy was going into, John Gloves was going into the point of their kingdom is about to fall, and no kingdom never lasted past 250 to 275 years. They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. See this word brought low? That's what it said on that belly shall I go in Genesis, man. Let's get it. Let's get brought low.
Strong's H 4355. Machach. Machach.
To be low, be humiliated, right? To sink, to be brought low. It got a strong definition. In ruins, to perish, be brought low, decay. And this is the prophecy of the so-called white man, man. Being brought low. Yep. So let's go back. Job 24 and 24. They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. Back to the basis of men on the belly. They are taken out of the way as all other what? All other rulerships dealing with the so-called white man's power, the Greeks, the Romans, the American Empire. They are taken out of the way as all other and cut off as the tops of the ears of corn. And when you cut the tops of the ears of corn off, you throw that into the slop bucket and give it to the hogs, man. And if it be not so, who will make me a liar and make my speech nothing worth? Who's going to make the Lord a liar? So anyway, yeah, man, I want to make some points on that. Get a couple precepts. That was only one precept I wanted to get, man. That Job 24. Because it's talking about, it said a portion, this is the portion of the so-called white man. And his portion is cursed, man. Okay? Their portion is to be cursed. The Lord said in Genesis 3 and 14. We went through the precepts and showed you these are the cursed people of the Lord, man. So what they're going to do, they're going to take lands. The brother posted on the comment board. Let me get it. Let me go back to it. Of course, I can just read it from the phone, but yep, beautiful, bro. Let's get this. Beautiful. The water. Kazab Bunyan Howard. Deuteronomy 27:17. Cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark, and all the people shall say a moth, man. Which is true. So it be. So let it be. So be true. That's what he do, man. I read that in Job. He removeth landmarks, man. Beautiful precepts. The water too. So going back to Micah. I know I saw it. Right here. Micah 2:1. Woe to him that devises of iniquity and work of evil upon their beds. It went into that in Job 24. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hands, because the Lord gave the earth to them to rule in wickedness. Verse 2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Right? Now I got to get these two precepts. In Job, let's go back to Job. What is that? No, that's Proverbs. Let me get this. What is that? Proverbs. Man, what is that? Is that 19? Let me see. It may be 29 and 11. 19 and 7. Hold on. No, man, what is that? It mentions him, man, let me get this. I don't want to stay too long. Let me see if it's 29 and 11. I want to get the one in. Matter of fact, hold on. I got it wrote down here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I got the one. I want the one in Habakkuk 3. And then there's another one in Proverbs. Is it Proverbs? Man. Hold on, I'm gonna get it here in a minute. Proverbs 11:29. That's what it is. Proverbs 11:29. Because what they are doing, which I'm gonna go back and read them, Micah 2, Proverbs 11:29. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind. So what they are doing is in troubling their own house. Because I read the scriptures when they say the portion, his portion, it said that he lead the rest of his substance to his babes, which the guy mentioned. So what's going on is they're going to inherit. It say he troubleth his own house, which is his lineage, his family line, which Esau despised in Genesis 25. He despised his birthright, which applies to his children when he have kids, to their inheritance, to their customs, right? It's all despised, man. Proverbs 11:29. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind. So in doing this, now let me get Micah. Micah 2. We left off at 2. Let's read it again. This is him troubling his own house, man. Micah 2:2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. And that's what they did. The Lord gave them the power to say, now they the Israelites. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family, who? The cursed people, the Edomites, do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. Verse 4. In that day shall one take up a parable against you, the Edomites, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He have changed the portion of my people. How have he removed it from me? Turned away, he hath divided our fields. See? And what's going on right now? They had divided our land. Now also, let's get this in Habakkuk. This is beautiful, man. But he consulted shame to his own house. That's the point. This is Habakkuk 2:6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him? So like I said in Micah 2, shall not all these take up a parable against him, a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay, which is his debt. In America is over $300 trillion in debt, man. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee? As it tell you in Isaiah 33:1. When he ceased to spoil and do treacherously, then the Lord gonna cause everybody else to go against them, man. And awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. See, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. And this applies to the land of Israel, man. They destroying Israelites, they destroying heathen nations, and they destroying their whole house, his own lineage. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house. See, that he may set his nest on high. This is about the elites. Forget their own people. That's why it's homeless white people's in America, because the elites has taken back generational wealth and white privilege from their people. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. See, this is all about them and themselves. Forget about the whole nation of Edomites. It's about them. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and has sinned against thy soul. Because he's a niggard at his table. That table is him having resources to all his people, man. He's a niggard to his own people, to himself. It tell you in Ecclesiastes 14, starting at verse 5, man. He's a niggard at his own table, man. Hey, so Lord was edifying. Got to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shah, Bahashim Rikad Korash. Double honors to the apostles and elder bishop and elders of Great Millstone, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, ready to accept it or not. In a sincere salutation to all the Akim pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, shedding light to the whole elect. Shalom to the outwalk who are listening learning. If you sisters who are listening learning. While tuning in. Till next time I say Shalom. Wa abba. Hey, the water for the precepts out. The water out. I appreciate you, man. You had them precepts on deck for the brother, man. For all brothers, man. Hey, the water to any Akim and not Waf tuning in, man. Shalom. Wa abba.